listeners, welcome to the Women in Sports Therapy podcast from the Sports Therapy Association. We are your hosts.
I'm Fiona.
And I'm Debs.
We're so excited to share this month's episode in which we meet with Steven Humphrey from My Income Protection to talk about income protection with sports therapists in mind.
Steven has a corporate finance background and in more recent years has set up his own business advising self-employed business owners on income protection policies and mortgages.
We can't wait to share our discussion with Steven in this episode, which includes conversations about Steven's own experience of working in multiple corporate organisations and his own limited company in the finance industry.
How Steven came to learn about the STA as well as his appreciation for sports therapy treatments.
Yes, in fact, Steven tells us about his recovery from an ankle injury that caused him to make a claim from his own income protection policy just months into starting his own business.
And a story that never gets old, Steven regales tales from his moonlighting days modelling.
So without further ado, here is our chat with Steven Humphrey. Please enjoy.
So hello everyone, hi listeners. Fiona and I are back with the WIST podcast, and we have a wonderful man with us today by the name of Steven Humphrey. I am not going to say a word because Steven can fully introduce himself. Go for it, Steven.
Thanks very much for having me on this morning. I really appreciate it. And obviously, as Deb says, my name's Steven. I'm a financial advisor of 15 years. I've had the pleasure of working with Debs very recently, working on her personal protection. And now it's a pleasure for me to step into the realms of what she does as well. So thanks for having me on.
Fantastic. You're welcome.
Thank you. So yeah, my career stems back from being a young, excitable puppy in Barclays Bank, working really, really hard. And within the first year, getting back-to-back promotions and really just starting to understand what working life is all about and really understanding what a career looks like as well. So at the age of 23, I took mortgage exams, which was 11 years ago. Ever since then, I've been a mortgage broker for big brokerages across the UK and also some of the UK's leading banks, such as Virgin Money, Barclays Bank. For the last 4 years, I've been self-employed. I had an unsuccessful business, and now I've moved on to my second business, which has eradicated all the stress issues that I might have had in the past, and I'm actually enjoying it this time around as well. And I've got a nice sort of work and family life balance, which is exactly what I need. So that's where I am today.
Perfect. Thanks ever so much, Steven. Great introduction on your professional stuff. I know that you did share with us a little bit about your personal life. You've just touched a little bit on family there, and a little bit on personal life. There's a little bit about that.
Yeah, of course. So I have a beautiful daughter who's 6 years old. She is just a female version of me. She blonde hair, blue eyes, doesn't get the looks from me, obviously. But no, she's such a character, unbelievable sort of best friend to have around the house. So I have her sort of 50% of the time. There's a sort of a split custody type scenario, which is fantastic. We went on our first family holiday together, myself, partner and daughter, last month to Portugal, which was just amazing, everything I ever thought it would be.
Wonderful.
So she's into all kinds, she's into everything, and she's definitely got a personality like me, so she'll probably go far in life, I think. And I've also got a beautiful girlfriend as well, who I've been with for coming up 1 year now.
And you can officially say she's beautiful because sorry to interrupt you there, you've got a little bit of a story to do with modelling as well, haven't you?
Do you want me to go on to that now, or do you want me to leave that for later?
We can park it for a bit.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know. I was going to say, I don't think you can drop that bomb and then just leave
it. We'll pick that back up. I won't forget.
Okay. So I'm a member of a health club, and I met her by chance. Probably about 12 months ago to today, really, talking to her in a steam room, and had a bit of a chat, got to know each other. The next time round and the same again, and then all of a sudden I find out the guts to ask her out on a date, and from there we never look back. So absolutely fantastic. I've also got a little dog as well. She's getting old, bless her.
Yeah, I think we were just comparing notes on background noises versus, like, so I've got a cat and Stephen's got a dog, and the kinds of like distractions that pets can have, you know, can cause while you're trying to be very professional on a Zoom call. But in particular, audio from dogs versus cats is very different. But I think it sounds like actually you would probably be a good guest on our work-life balance type talk podcast episodes.
Get me on that one as well, yeah. Get me on that one. So yeah, little dog called Misty. She's a Westie crossed with a Bichon. She's just a white fluff ball. But as I was just saying to Fiona before we came live, she started to make really weird grunting noises in her old age. She just like a bit like a pug noise through her nose and stuff. It's a bit weird, really, but yeah, it's very strange. Nothing a bit untoward, but yeah, a bit weird, really. So yeah, I won't invite her onto the podcast today.
Just because she's a little bit grunty.
Yeah, a little bit.
So I'm just going to go straight into a question, if that's all right, Stephen. We know a little bit about how you got into this business, and I have been an absolute in awe of you and what you've been able to do for me with regards to income protection. And it's something that is one of the benefits of being part of the STA as a member, that we have the ability to access a portal.
Yep.
And Gary will tell you about the portal quite a bit over time if you speak with Gary, and saying, you know, just go in there because it's got everything that you can possibly find that's going to help you and assist you as part of a membership with the STA. And one of those absolute gold nuggets was stumbling across you after I said to Gary, can we get income protection? Go to the portal, Debs. Oh, okay. Which is I'm not very good with IT, so it was a bit of a freak when I went to the IT portal and then got there, and then on the other side of it was you, who was incredibly friendly, really knowledgeable, asked me loads of questions so that I could get what I needed to get the income protection that suited me, and you absolutely went over and above what I was expecting. I'd done a comparison on the website and it was really poor, but to get that personal touch from you and to get that balance of, because you're an STA member, I really want to work with the STA, I support the STA, and I really support everybody that's, you know, self-employed. You know what it's like to be self-employed yourself.
Yeah.
So I think what I'm leaning towards really is the question. So for members and listeners that are out there, how does the income protection benefit them?
Yeah, really good question. So basically, income protection is there so that when you're self-employed, or even sometimes employed as well, you're not fortunate enough to have something to fall back on financially if you were sick, had an accident, fell down with an illness. If you're off work for a prolonged period of time, obviously your finances, your income's going to stop, but your bills are never going to stop. So you need something that is going to continuously pay you a wage until you're well enough to go back and earn a living once again. So income protection or private sick pay, however you want to sort of phrase it, is probably one of the best investments you can ever make in yourself. Like for yourself, Deb, if you're off work sick for any length of time, we established that actually, you know, you're going to run out of money pretty quickly because of the way the cost of living is, the bills that you've got going out, that type of thing. And you're the average person who's trying to make a good living. But unfortunately, we can't predict what's going to happen in our health. And because we can't predict that, we need something in place to say, actually, should the worst happen, I can actually fall back on this, because being off work is pretty stressful anyway and cause different mental illnesses. The worst one that you're going to then have on top of that is financial stress, which is something that everyone could do without. And by having something like this in place, that stops that from happening. And that allows you to then make a full recovery by not having to make financial decisions that you don't want to have to make. Which bill am I going to cut this month? Am I going to fall behind on my mortgage? Because when I fall behind on my mortgage, I can't then get another mortgage. I can't move house in the future because I've got a red cross against my name. And it has endless amounts of destruction on your credit report, for example. So it's a very, very good investment in yourself. It links me back to an analogy that I got when I first started training, and I never ever use this with clients really because it's a little bit cheesy, and and if there's an industry professional that is in my job that's listening to this now, they'll be thinking, well, it's a good analogy, but it's awful. You should never use it, Stephen, but I'm going to use it. Is
Let's go.
So basically, if you had a machine in your house that every month created £2,000 of money,
Lovely.
you would, yeah, great. It's the best thing ever.
Yeah.
But I said, actually, I'm an insurance guy, and what I do is I will ensure that that machine kicks out £2,000 a month for the rest of your working life. How much would you pay me each month to come and maintain that and look after that? Well, some people would say 20, 30, 40 pounds. Some people say, actually, it's paying out 2,000. I'd probably pay £1,000. Now imagine that machine's getting older. The older the machine gets, the more likely it is to break down. The more use it's had, the more spares and repairs it's had on, the more it's going to cost to sort of look after that machine. But one thing's for sure, everybody will pay an amount of money to look after that machine and to make sure it kept paying out £2,000 a month. Well, actually, you are that machine, and you are the person that goes and makes that £2,000 a month.
Yeah.
And you should be paying to look after yourself in terms of, okay, if that machine breaks down, you have something in place which replaces that £2,000. So if you had the machine doing it, why wouldn't you do it for yourself when you are the machine?
Absolutely. I think that's quite a good analogy, to be honest. I mean, my machine wouldn't work without a cup of tea first thing, but there we go.
There you go.
Wow, yeah, that is a great analogy, and I didn't see it coming. Like, I was kind of thinking, what's this machine? I just did not get that was going to be.
Where can I buy one?
Oh, love it.
£2,000 a month, brilliant.
Oh wow, yeah, fantastic. And I think you can see actually from the way that you're talking about it, Stephen, that you're really passionate about providing this as a service to people.
Absolutely.
And it sounds like from your introduction, it said, when you were talking about your background, that you've had your own kind of issues with kind of working in a business and then not kind of going to plan. So, I mean, were there any other kind of plus points to having income protection? Did you, and also a kind of like expanding, kind of going off script a bit, did you have income protection when you experienced what you experienced?
Yeah,
a bit of a two-pronged.
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
So in terms of myself, once I went self-employed, I realized I was always used to big corporate companies that I worked for. And I was off work sick. I used to get 6 months full pay, 6 month half pay. And generally speaking, I think that's probably enough for somebody to live on if they've got a short to medium term illness. I think it's a really good benefit that an employer should provide to people. Unfortunately, when you become self-employed, you don't have that at all. There's no safety net there. You get absolutely nothing from the government. You don't even get statutory sick pay. So when you're self-employed, you've really got no choice but to do it. Now, if I was recommending this to clients, I almost have to have it in. I have to have it in place myself because I believe in it. I live and breathe it. So yes, there's actually a bit of a story, to be honest with you, where I set up a business, and 4 months later, I was playing football, and I went over on the football, and I thought I just snapped my ankle basically in half. It was absolutely horrendous, and I'd done both sides of it. I'd done my ligaments and my ankle, and I was out of work for about 8 weeks. It was over sort of the Christmas period. I was on crutches. The recovery was long. It was really, really long. And unfortunately enough, I had the income protection in place. Not only did it pay me a monthly salary because I decided not to travel to the office because it was too far away and I couldn't drive, but also I got a lump sum payout as well. So there's other benefits to having income protection. It's more than just paying a salary. We can tap on those a little bit later because there's quite a few.
Yes.
But I got a lump sum payment as well of £2,000 for the ligament damage, and then also got £1,500 a month until I was well enough to go back to work. For me, it was so valuable because I was then tempted to take money out of a business that wasn't generating money anymore because I wasn't working and therefore there was no income. So I was just going to bleed the reserves of the business. So not only was it the right thing to do for myself, it's the right thing to do for my business as well, so that I'm not taking out of the pocket of the business if there's staff to pay, if there's other directors to pay, and if I'm not contributing because I'm not there. I think it's just a respectful thing to do. So so for me to have income protection was the first thing I did, the first day I got licensed in my own company, I did my own policy, and unfortunately I had to claim on it 4 months later, but fortunately I had the policy in place to make the claim. And it's the same for everybody. There's it's such a valuable thing to have. So yeah, I'm so passionate about it. It's because I've used it and I've claimed before, and I know how easy it is to claim. I am so passionate about it, and I could shout it from the rooftops if someone would let me. So
I'm glad you are. I'm glad you're telling us about it. I like in my own life, like I have a family member who's relied on income protection. I don't know if it was called that, it was a few years back, but just it was a lifeline for our family, and has really meant that life could continue without too much disruption. Obviously you're still dealing with the illness or whatever it is that's caused the disruption, but it leaves you to focus on that more, I think. It's that peace of mind, isn't it?
Well, you're not going back to work too early, are you? You're making sure that you're well before you go back, so that you hit the ground running, so that you can continue to work your business. And I think that's another reason as to why it's such a good protection to have. It is a protection so that you are well when you go back to work. You're not going to then be back off sick again in 3 months' time, because you're not actually well enough to be back to work. So it's an insurance for the business as well as yourself. You're doing both. Fiona was also asking with regards to the plus points for income protection, and Stephen, you touched on that there are other benefits. Can you tell us like other benefits? I mean, to me, this is good enough. What else do we get?
Yeah, so the idea of income protection is that if the insurer can do something to stop you from having to make a claim, and that's by providing a third-party service, they will almost certainly try and do their best with that. So I'll give you a few examples. The first one was fracture cover, or dislocation cover, or ligament tear cover. Basically, that pays out a lump sum. So if, say, for example, I had a broken ankle, but I could work from home, I would still be able to go to work. Yeah, it might not be ideal because I might need to have certain treatments, or I might find that I need some form of assistance in the house over time. This lump sum payment is there to provide you with not only money that you might need at the time, because you might have to take some time off work for hospital appointments and stuff like that, but it allows you to have financial freedom to make decisions about care and things like that if you do need it. The payments range from 2,000 to 7,500, and basically the more valuable the bone is in the body deemed to be, the more the payout is. So a fracture to the skull pays out 7,500, but a fracture on the foot only pays out 2,000 because of the severity. So there's lump sum payments to bones and muscles, ligaments and tendons. We've also got rehabilitation type treatments. So first one is I had physiotherapy, 6 sessions a year I'm allowed to tap into, and that allowed me to get full recovery on my ankle quicker, because the pain lasted for probably about 12 months when I was playing football, so I couldn't return back to football without feeling pain, and the physio really helped with that. So that's one plus point with it. The next one is sort of bereavement counselling and other counselling services. So if you suffer from something, either a close bereavement or stress, anxiety, depression, any form of mental illness, that tends to have you off work for 6 months plus, in sort of worst cases. Now, what this policy does is it allows you to tap into this service, so that, yes, you're costing the insurer money by tapping into the service, but it's actually going to save them money in the long run, because they're actually making you better, getting you back to work quicker, which is ideally the scenario that you want to be in. It's not that they're trying not to pay out, it's more that they're interested in you as their client, and they want to make sure that you're fitting well at all times by providing these services.
And you want that too, because you want to run your business, don't you? You don't want to be out of your business, really.
Absolutely. And one of the stipulations of income protection is you can't be better off out of work than you are in work. So they only insure you for a percentage of your income. So there's always an incentive to go back to work. If you hate your job and you hate your business, then you might want to stay off a little bit longer and think about what else you want to do in life. But for the average person, the enthusiastic person in business, They just want to get back in there. And this really is a setback. When this happens, it's a setback, but let's make the best of a bad situation and have something in place. A few of the other things are that, and I know you love this one, Debs, you were sort of really, really excited about this one, is I don't like going to the doctors. I find I'm a hindrance on the NHS at the moment. They're always very, very busy, and you hear about the waiting times and stuff like that. This policy allows you to have, I don't know whether private GP is the right word, I guess it is. You have your own virtual GP, who is a real GP. If you're feeling unwell one morning, you wake up, or you or any family member in the household is unwell, you can log into the app. You can basically press a button which logs a job in with the GP, and within 3 hours you're having a conversation like we are now with the GP, who can diagnose over the phone by Skype, and can also send prescriptions via email to your email address if can be prescribed over a video call. And I do believe that there is subscription services now which mean that you can get your email subscription delivered directly to your address. So in theory, if you needed antibiotics or something, you could do it without leaving the house now. So this allows you to do that. And although it doesn't give you private treatment, it allows you to have that diagnosis without having to go to the doctor's
what
surgery.
a comfort blanket this, I mean, the whole thing is an absolute comfort blanket. And because you're a member of the STA, you get this massive bonus. To me, I couldn't not have you come to speak with us at WIST, because I just thought, why does nobody do this? This is crazy, why? And yeah, so this for me was, like you say, it was, wow, I've got income protection. I'm paying nothing hardly anything each month compared to what I'd sort of looked at on the internet. It was almost, I think it was just over half, wasn't it? Something like that.
It was just over half, yeah. But
yeah.
if you can remember what happens in 12 months' time as well, Debs, can you remember what the benefit was that you didn't pick up on?
Yeah. Remind me, Stephen, because there was so much my mind blew.
So in 12 months' time, whatever Debs pays into the policy, she gets 50% of her premiums back. If she doesn't make a claim in the first 12 months, she gets 50% of her premiums back after she's paid 12 months premium. So half of her premiums will be returned back to her. So it actually in the first year works out a third of the cost of the quote that you got on the internet.
Just, yeah, I think that just blew my mind.
It seems like a good investment, even, especially when you think you could be putting money. A lot of people might think, oh, well, I'll just put my money into savings. Well, interest rates, I know they're going up, but they're not exactly going up.
No.
And that kind of level of investment, especially in this climate, it's got to be worth at least a consideration, a look in. And all the things that you've described, like Debs, like you said, it does sound like a real comfort, a security blanket to have that and know there's peace of mind there, isn't there? I was going to say as well that it occurs to me that you didn't describe the actual cost per month. Maybe for a lot of people, this might be something that has either maybe it's been an option and just not been affordable or seemingly affordable or a bit intimidating even just to look into it.
Of course.
What kind of, that's just for people who have the income protection is for people who have the income already.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. You've nailed it there. I totally thought that, which is why when I spoke to Stephen, I was, so sorry, over to you guys. Yeah.
Well, what can we expect in terms of are there levels of coverage or how does it work? What kind of pay could we expect?
Yeah. So there is no average necessarily, because nobody is average, everybody is different. So the premium is based on you and your circumstances. So the things that affect premium is age. Age is a big one. So the younger you are, the cheaper it is, basically, because there's less likely things to go wrong with you. Funnily enough, it used to be that women used to pay more than men because women have got more complicated bodies. They're not allowed to do that anymore. So that's a bonus for women.
Yay!
Smoker. If you're a smoker, as you can imagine, it normally adds 50% of the premium. It's not that I don't deal with smokers. I try and encourage them to stop smoking because of the premiums. If there's any incentive, then that could be it. And also any pre-existing medical conditions that you might have can impact the premium as well. So in terms of costing wise, let's say you have a 24-year-old male non-smoker who wants £1,500 a month income as a benefit. That person would pay between £10 to £15 a month for all of those benefits I've described, plus the income protection. I am 34 years old. I have the bells and whistles, all singing, all dancing, £2,000 a month cover. I have every additional benefit that I've just described to you before, and I pay £24 a month for mine. As you get older, the older you are, the more you pay, and that's because there's more risk associated with age for the insurer. So the cost is, some people might say, oh, I'm not interested because it's going to cost hundreds of pounds. And you might have been switched off, Debs, when you got your quote online. And thought,
totally did.
Yeah, I could have called you and said, Debs, I'm going to talk to you about income protection. You said, no, thank you. I'm not interested because it's too expensive.
Yeah.
And actually, we're a whole of market broker. We have access to all the insurers available for income protection. And the price that you get directly with the provider is the price that you get with us. So there's no increase in premiums. There's nobody else to pay. We offer the advice. We're bound by that advice. And if there's ever any problem with the advice, for example, it falls back on us rather than the insurer. So the insurer pays us a salary almost for organising the insurance under their company name. So they don't have to pay anybody internally, and there's no risk to the insurer either. So we are responsible for all the advice. We're responsible for making any claims on the client's behalf. We're responsible for making sure that the policy is up to date and valid. We're then responsible for making sure that we offer the right advice to the client. And the first thing that we always do is we always work towards a client's budget. So if a client said to me, oh, Stephen, I've only got £20 that I can possibly spare on this, I will make a recommendation based on £20. If they need more than that, I can always recommend it and say, actually, for £24, I can give you everything you've ever needed, but I'm stretching your budget. Well, actually, for an extra £4, of course I can afford it as £1 a week. But if someone has a recommendation of over £100, for example, and they say, oh, Stephen, I can only afford 50, having some cover in place is better than having no cover in place, because even if you have to half the cover amount, and I said, oh yeah, I can only give you £1,000 a month. Well, actually, I can still pay my mortgage, I can still pay my council tax, my gas, water, electricity. I might have to cut back a little bit on my social stuff, and I might have to cut back on my gym membership, or I might not be able to have that luxury, but actually I can still afford just to still, live. But you've also got all those great other amazing benefits alongside as well.
Still a comfort blanket, isn't it?
I mean, I think those benefits alone, regardless of the income protection, those benefits, if I sold them in one package to somebody standalone, I'd probably say I could sell it for £20, £30 a month quite easily. I really do.
Yes, agreed. Yeah, I couldn't believe it when I came to you and I said, this is what I found on the internet, and and then you said, well, you could have this or you could have that, just like you've explained.
Yeah.
And I said, well, yeah, and not only that, but you also get this, and I couldn't retain it all. I just couldn't retain it all. And you really worked with me. And I'm sure that you do this with everybody. It's your style. Yeah. You worked with me to find out what was best for me. So it's really individually packaged. It's really personalised. You really find out a relationship with myself. I'm sure you do that with everyone, to make sure that you've got the best that I could have. You feel comfortable, and I know that's kind of within your nature to make sure that I've got Absolutely. The best that I can definitely have. So I'm really, really grateful for you coming on and sharing this information. For me, Fiona, I think, why doesn't everybody have this? If you're self-employed, what do you think?
I think it's amazing, and I wish that I had been a little bit more switched on, maybe a bit earlier in my self-employed work. To do this. I think I haven't been affected by health per se in the kind of way that would be, by the sounds of it, claimable, just other than a lot of stress. And just, you can't always predict, you can have an idea and you can have backup plans. But if you're independent of, you're working as a unit, you're self-employed, and you don't have even a family member who's also sharing accommodation with somebody who's willing to cover the bills while you're recovering, it just sounds like it's something worth considering. For our younger, maybe our students, I guess, or graduate therapists who've just, embarked upon their career, this is a great idea to kind of use as a sort of a mindset of approaching setting up a business and trying to work up the ladder and progress if you have plans to expand or take on staff members as well. I suppose, like, how does that work, Stephen? If you've got employees, I mean, one of our questions coming up is, I hope Debs doesn't mind, it was one of her questions, but like,
go for it.
What information is required here? Because if we're starting out with quite a small income, do you need to know exactly what salary we have? You mentioned things like health and age. How much information do you need financially from us in order to make a kind of judgment on what income we should have protected?
Yeah. So for an indicative quote, the first thing you need is date of birth, so you can establish the age, whether the person smokes or not, and how much they earn. So that would allow us to generate a quote. Now, in terms of earnings, you can only be covered for a maximum of 70% of what you earn, so that there's an incentive for you to go back to work. So like when I had the conversation with Debs as to what was your net profits for the business last year, that figure then goes into the system, and then she can have 70% of that figure. Now, when it comes to self-employed, that figure should change every year, unless you've got the same client, same day, every single day. That figure will fluctuate. And for example, next time Debs does her tax return, there's going to be an increase in that. And therefore, we had a conversation about the future as well. Is there a need to cover you for more than the 70% that you can get today? Because in a couple of months' time, you're going to be able to insure yourself for more, which was very, very comfortable with that amount. What we do is we have an annual review, because we know that things change. We don't need any proof of earnings to get the policy set up. We don't need proof of anything, actually. It's more just an upfront and honest disclosure of health. And the health questions that you mentioned are, have you ever had any of these things wrong with you before, anything serious like cancer, heart attack, stroke? There's a medical declaration that has about 20 questions in, yes, no's, yes, no, yes, no. And what that does is that then allows us to be able to underwrite the policy properly. And for you as an individual, you're covered for the right things, and there's no sort of misinsurance there, whereas you try to make a claim on something and you can't because you haven't declared something in the declaration. So the big deciding factors are height and weight has a big factor on your premium and whether you can get insured or not. If you are, we have problems with bodybuilders sometimes, people who have high BMI, but it's muscular. And my argument is, well, surely someone who's a bodybuilder who's 20 stone and 6 foot, they're deemed to be morbidly obese in the category, and therefore it's very, very hard to get them insurance. But the argument of the insurer is that actually that person has a lot of stress on the heart, and that can cause complications. And then you've got the other end of the spectrum, which is someone who's 20 stone and 6 foot, but it's not muscular, and it's because they are overweight, and that has health problems as well. So height and weight is a big one. But the good thing is there is insurers out there that are happy to take that risk, albeit you pay a higher premium for having the cover because you're higher risk. So yeah, there's health declaration that we go over in sort of 5-10 minutes over the telephone, and that allows us to be able to make a good judgment call on who the best insurer is based on your personal circumstances. In terms of validation, there isn't any. If you come to make a claim, I do all the claim for you. So I'll speak to the insurer. All we need from you is just a sick note, or I think they're called fit note now. As long as I have that from the doctor sent to me via you, we can then make a claim with the insurer. That's all you need, is just the sick note. If you're then trying to go on, Fiona.
I was just going to ask, like, in terms of making a claim, then, because we're talking about a monthly amount of money that you would be protected for. What's that duration? What would a week be, or a day? How does it work if you've got this note from a doctor?
Yeah, of course. So basically, you have to serve something, first of all, called a deferred period. So this is to stop people from just taking 1 or 2 days off work and making a claim. So not only does it cost the insurer a lot of money, it's also time and administration as well. So you have to serve what's called a deferred period. This is how long you can survive before the policy starts paying out. So for example, mine and Deb's deferred period is 1 month. We both looked and said, at separate times, how much can we afford to live on? Okay, have we got that money in the bank? Would you be able to stretch through a month? Yes. After that time, we're going to need some help and support, and that's when the insurance policy kicks in. So the deferred periods available are 1 week, 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, and 12 months. So the longer you can wait, the lower the premium is. So if you take a 1 week deferred period, you're more likely to make a claim than what I am on my 1 month. And I'm more likely than someone who's on a 3 month. And that has an impact on the premiums. So when it starts to pay out has an impact on the premium and how long it pays out for. So once you've sort of served your deferred period, you can choose how long you want the benefit to pay out for as well. So for me, I've got a 2-year period. So I can make a claim up to 24 months moving forward. After 24 months, I don't get any more help and support from the insurance company. That's it, my claim is done. Once I go back to work for 6 months, I'm allowed to make another fresh 24-month claim again. Okay. You can either choose 12 months, 24 months, 5 years, or indefinitely, or until you retire. So I could have took out an insurance policy today. I could be struck by a car tomorrow and have such a severe spinal injury, and that meant I could never ever work again. And if I had the right insurance policy in place, that would pay out indefinitely all the way through to age 67. Wow. And each month I would have that without question. What then happens is the doctor in normal illnesses would just provide you with a 1 week sick note, another week, another week, another week. Once you've done 4 of those weeks and you think, actually, I'm going to be off a little bit longer now, I then have to take each sick note and scan it onto the insurer every week or every month, or however often the sick note is provided. Once I've got that sick note sent over straight to the insurer, they start making the payout once you've served your deferred period.
Wow. That's impressive that there's so many options, I think, and, like certainly addressing that concern over the cost, particularly when money is tight, that there's that adaptability and ability to adjust the premium. I think insuring until retirement just seems like such a impressive thing to be able to do, just may not always be feasible. Is there a big difference in those kind of costs, the fees for that?
Yeah, there can be. I think when I did Debs, we had about 5 or 6 different options on the table, if you like. And for me to make a recommendation, it was more finding out what was the most important thing for her against what her budget is. There can be, if you go for the longest defer period with a small amount of benefit that lasts a short amount of time, everyone could be insured for sort of £7, £8, £9 a month. Yeah, that's great, but the likelihood of ever making a claim and the longevity of that claim is very, very short. I think what you've got to look at when I'm recommending income protection is you've got to put yourself in the shoes of that sick person and think, actually, oh yeah, you can't be blasé about it and think, okay, well, oh yeah, I'll be all right for a month, or I'll be all right for 3 months, and I'll be all right on £1,500 a month. And you've got to really, when you're in that moment of having that discussion, you've got to really put yourself in that scenario of, actually, right now I'm off sick, I've got my bank account, I've got the money in there. What's going to happen then? What's happening to me bills? And you've got to then weigh that up against your budget and work out, is it worth paying more to have that extra cover, or am I happy with the cover that I've got? Generally, what you find is not a lot of people can afford the all sing and all dance and bells and whistles, shortest defer period, maximum amount of cover, longest time payout. Generally speaking, the 1 and 2 year option is normally the sort of most beneficial, because it marries up very nicely with normal employers' sick pay. So when I discussed before about getting 6 months full and 6 month half, you're getting cover of some form of salary for a year there. This does very similar type of thing over a space of a year. And the income protection is there designed more for short term, in my opinion. What I have alongside mine, and not to confuse matters here, is so I have something called critical illness cover as well. So if I'm off work sick, I know I'm going to get paid. If in the incident I've just spoken about there, which is struck by a car, spinal injury, I'm in a wheelchair, that's me done, I would claim on something called total permanent disability, and my lump sum payout, so I'm covered for quite a lot of money on critical illness, that lump sum would allow me to pay off my mortgage in full. It would allow me to have an income for so many years coming forward, and I'd probably have financial freedom for the rest of my life. So it's understanding people's budget, but then also their overall picture as well. The income protection, if you can afford to pay it every month and have cover until you are retired, then that is the absolute pivotal. That's where you should be at. But the cost difference is sometimes double. Sometimes you're paying double, because if you imagine the insurer's risk is, I'm paying out for 12 months at a time, now I'm paying out for 30 odd years at a time, the insurer's risk is a lot higher, and therefore that is reflected in the premiums. So I always give people the option by price, really, in terms of, do you see a benefit in paying more and having this cover against paying less and having this cover? So it does have a big impact on the premiums.
And that goes back, Stephen, to what we were saying earlier about you being an expert in your field, which absolutely you're proving that minute after minute of speaking with you. But I felt personally, I was really safe in your hands. I knew that you knew your stuff inside out, and you're showing us that today. But the fact that you asked so many questions about me personally, and I know that you'd be doing that with whoever you're dealing with, so that you can tailor it to exactly what they need. And that confidence of knowing that if someone then claims on the insurance, they know they are covered, because I felt safe in your hands, like I say, that you'd asked every question you could possibly ask to find out what you could do to tailor it, so that should that event ever happen, I know I could make one phone call and say to you, Stephen, sadly, I'm going to have to claim, this is what's happened. And you'd say, right, yep, no problem, because we've already got it in place. And for that, I think was just completely invaluable for members that we have at the STA. It's just something, I think, not just the cover, but also all the other benefits that you've mentioned. I would pay for that, like you say, separately alone to have all of those benefits, and that comes as part of the package. It was just so incredible. I think I'm just going to sidetrack slightly, Fiona. Sorry about this.
You go for it.
We mentioned about modelling to start with, and I think it's just such a lovely story that you told me about, and it was just so funny how it happened. And I'd really like to share it with the members, if that's, or the listeners today, if that's all right. Do you mind going ahead, Stephen?
Yeah, of course. So yeah, during the time of working with Debs, I just dropped into conversation that I was a member of a local health club, been going there for years and years and years, and that's where I met my partner as well. And a few weeks ago, she was leaving there, and the manager had pulled her to one side and said, "Oh, we're getting new photos taken of the retreat and of the hotel and the restaurant. Would you mind modelling for us?" And her dream has always been to have been a model. She's done modelling in the past, and thought her chance and opportunity had gone in life, and straight away jumped at the chance. And then after accepting, said, "Oh, would your partner mind doing it as well with you?" So, "Oh yeah. There won't be a problem with that. It'd be absolutely fine. It's no problem at all." So she leaves the health club and gives me a call and tells me that I've been rolled into a modelling day. I couldn't believe it, because I don't know whether I don't think you'll be able to put a picture of both of us together, but she's absolutely stunningly beautiful, and I'm just not the model type at all. So, but anyway, she wrote me into doing it, and it was 2 weeks ago. We had to go set up with something like 10 changes of clothes. It was a full on day, and I was exhausted at the end of it. It was so tiring, but yeah, we did a full modelling shoot around the pool and the jacuzzi in the retreat area, and then in the restaurant, doing sports things like table tennis and mini golf and having a drink. And so yeah, we're now the new face of the health club, and the pictures are now all over Facebook. Every day they release a new picture. So there was
sounds like
nice...
a very well catalogued retreat experience.
Well, it was. I mean, funny enough, the team that came out to do the photography, I know of them anyway, and they're a pretty big deal in the northeast as well. So there was no expense spared in terms of expertise there that day, other than for me, my partner, who have very little expertise in modelling at all. But apparently we did really well, and they were happy with the photos, so I can't complain. But hopefully the chain of hotels ask us to do some more, because it was pretty enjoyable, and you get paid for doing it, so why not?
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate
okay.
it. Just gives an insight as to what else you do outside of the
modeling, obviously. Yeah.
Modeling as well. It's just quite thanks ever so much for sharing that. So I think also you've shared with us about income protection, and I'm stealing one of Fiona's questions, sorry Fiona. So with income protection, clients you've already helped, you've given us a couple of examples. Has there been anything that's really stood out for you and said, wow, if that didn't happen, do you know somebody within a business, and if they didn't have the protection?
I just lost the tail end of that, Debs, on the question.
Yeah, I lost it too. Maybe you could just repeat the question. So can you hear us? Doesn't look like she can hear us.
I had complete silence for a moment. I apologise. Sorry,
okay.
Stephen.
I just lost the tail end of the question.
Yeah, so in essence, so should somebody have had the income protection, they would have been in a much better position, or because they had the income protection, this then happened within their business. Do you have any experience of that?
I do, yeah. Well, unfortunately, and this one will always stick with me, actually, because it was such an unfortunate event, really, but and also probably highlights the importance of why I'm so passionate about it now. So 4 years ago, my old business partner had a meeting with a client who was, I would say, an associate of ours, and he was in business 50-50 with somebody else. And we did a sort of an introduction, and then we did a fact find and said, actually, between the two of you, this is what you need in place in your business. So if either one of you are off work sick, you need to be able to protect yourselves. Because you've got 50-50 shares and it's a limited company, if either one of you die or have a critical illness and can't fulfill your duties, we need to decide what's going to happen with the shares. Now, the opt was that they were both married, and that the business at the time was worth about £500,000. So each person's shares was 250,000. The idea then was that if either one of those died in that next 12 months, that their partner would receive £250,000 as a buyout of those shares, because the last thing either one wanted was the other one's wife coming in and making business decisions in a business they had no clue about. So that was the diagnosis, if you like, of the situation. And the income protection was there to make sure that no one was taken out of the business when they weren't there, because each one had an important role within the business. And they declined our recommendation, and it was okay. We don't want to pay. I mean, to be honest with you, it was quite a lot of money each month, because you're covering yourself £250,000 for each person for life cover, critical illness cover, and then the income protection was pretty high as well. I think the premiums were about £120 a month.
Oh,
now,
right.
If you work that out on a business that's worth £500,000, that was turning over in excess of £200,000 a year. That's not a great deal to pay each month, I don't think.
No, I don't think
in the grand scheme of things. So
no.
That was the diagnosis, and that was our remedy, basically. And we persisted and persisted and persisted. Months went by, and no, we're not going to do it. No, it's too much money. We're not going to do it. And unfortunately, one of the directors fell ill, and unfortunately, for 6 months was unable to work, which meant that not only were they not bringing in the income anymore from the business that they could, they also were taking out of the business as well. So it was almost like a double negative, in effect, that the £100,000 that person was responsible for bringing in, they weren't bringing in, but they were still taking out their salary each month. So it had a double negative effect on the business, where the reserves were drained very, very quickly. What that meant was, if we'd had something in place, it could have meant that we would have been able to replace that person temporarily with another body. So the business would have had an influx of cash, and it would have allowed them then to make a decision on bringing somebody else into the business to replace that person in a temporary role as a salesperson. Right.
Yeah.
So the person was off work sick for 6 months, then unfortunately passed away.
Oh
So
gosh.
at the point of passing, the income wasn't coming in, the outgoing was going out. The business then was struck down from 2 directors to 1. And then you've then got the family of that deceased person saying, well, what's going to happen? What's happening with the business? It's worth 500,000. We want our 250,000, or we want part of the business. By the time that had happened, and the bereavement was sort of out of people's minds a little bit more, and business went back to usual, there was no money in the bank, and the client base was gone, and the business almost had to start again with 1 person, and the business ended up liquidating, and the setup had to set up a new business to start from scratch. So it was a thriving business, went down to a nothing business, and it was worth absolutely nothing to anybody. And I still speak to that person today, and I'll always look and think, well, how can you sit in front of me now? And you must feel, I can't even imagine the emotions that person feels, knowing that the remedy was there, the recommendation was sat right in front of them, and they didn't take that recommendation. And I think when you're on your own and you're self-employed on your own, it's only you that's going to be impacted. When you branch out and you have other staff and other livelihoods that are there, and other families that you are relying on you to generate that income and have a successful business, I think you'd be stupid never ever to put something in place to protect everybody in there. And sometimes that might look scary on paper because there's an outgoing going out of 100, 200. I think the biggest premium I've ever done was £800 a month for a business. So that meant, though, that no matter what happened, there was a key person in that business, and they were responsible for doing one thing, and only they could do it because they were the expert in it. And they knew that to hire somebody to replace that person, if that person was off, to rehire that person again would cost them in the region of about £80,000 a year. So we had to put a policy in place to make sure that if that person ever left, that machine could still run with another expert coming in, because nobody else knew how to do it in the factory. So
sorry,
all 3 of us.
Yep. Carry on, Stephen. Sorry.
No, so again, you look at sort of, you could look at it as a return on investment sometimes as well, to say I'm investing £800, but what that actually means to me is, it means that if either one of us die, if either one of us get a critical illness, if that one key person goes off work, if anyone's off work sick, a full package is there to make sure that in any eventuality, not only as that person as an individual looked after, the business as a whole can still function and still generate income, so that everybody else's livelihoods aren't impacted. If you've got a team of 10 people and the director goes off work sick, you've got 9 people going home to their family saying, I've no idea what's going to happen tomorrow. I don't know what's going on. And
you become responsible.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It should almost be a mandatory requirement. That self-employed people have this. The reason it can't be is because not everybody qualifies for it because of health declaration and medical, so that's the reason why. But I think as long as you're well enough to have it, you should definitely have it.
Yeah, you mentioned, obviously, I think from many of us on, as STA members are self-employed, strictly self-employed, not part of limited businesses. Is there a difference in how income protection is issued or awarded, I suppose, between those 2 types of businesses or employment?
There isn't, other than if there's multiple people within the limited company. So if there's different directors and shareholders. When we spoke about the earnings before, it's based on the net profit of the business. Right. When you become a limited company, if there's a 50-50 shareholding, it's the net profits of your 50% that it's based on. So it's not the overall company, it's your share of the net profits that it's worked on. So that's the only difference really, is based on what the shareholder split is. But if you are a successful individual with a limited company, because of tax reasons, whether you've got a limited company or a sole trader account, the calculation is exactly the same.
And you're insuring the individual, essentially.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And as an individual, without any staff or other directorships, to start off, so Fiona, you were saying about student members, and I haven't actually asked the question whether you need a particular qualification as a business to be part of that, which I'll ask in a minute, Stephen. But surely it would be a good idea to start now as a single sole trader, before you become limited, whatever. So you're used to paying out anyway. So it's only going to either slightly up the premium or reevaluate, it might go down. But it's something that is an outgoing that is part of what you're doing anyway. I would imagine that that's probably good practice, if nothing else. But also, if you are off sick for any reason, your payments are actually, with the policy that I've got, I know, I don't know if this is the same as all, Stephen, but your payments actually don't go out anymore until you're back to work, do they?
That's right, yeah. So if you make a claim, they pause your payments whilst the claim is going on, because it's an extra outgoing that you shouldn't have to pay in effect. So yeah, you've got that benefit there, which will allow you to do that. And of course, when you've got younger people coming into the industry, and you talk about outgoings and getting used to them, when I first set up a business, and it'll be the same for most people, I think, you walk into it and think, oh well, yeah, I'll have a website, I'll have my domain name. I've got to pay for possibly Gmail or Office 365. What other outgoings have I got? Oh, well, actually, you need professional indemnity and public liability, perhaps if you work in certain industries. Oh, I didn't realize I had to pay for that. That's 30 quid and that's £20. And then if someone came in at that time of setting up a business and said, it's ideal that you have this for £15 a month or £20 a month, that's such a little cost that just gets added into the overall, I'm setting up a business, this is the cost of setting up a business.
Agreed.
They would never ever miss it. And I think you're right, is do it from the outset, and you'll only ever appreciate it more than look down at it and think, oh, what is that direct debit going out each month? Because it'll probably be one of the smallest direct debits you have going out when it comes to sort of business insurance, and it's probably the most valuable.
Yeah, I agreed. It should. I'm just going to piggyback that with what I said earlier about being qualified. So, do we have? Obviously, there's a list. I remember you going through with me. There's a list of what type of job role you have. Clearly, we are all therapists of some description, whether it be physiotherapists, massage therapists, whatever we are, soft tissue, etc. So do you have to be qualified to a particular level, or can anybody get it? Can students get it if they're setting up their business as a student? Is that possible? Or if they have another business or they're working somewhere else, can they have that? Because I work in a clinic one day a week and I have my own business as well. So can I have that? Is that something, I can, it covers me for both?
Yeah, so the minimum qualifying criteria for having a policy is that you earn £1 and that you work 1 hour within the month, for example. So if you're on a 0 hours contract and you need some cover in place, then you can do that. Now that goes back to saying that actually you can only be insured for 70% of what your overall earnings are. So if you're first starting out day one and then you take out a policy, well, you've got no earnings to back that up, have you? So then it's like, well, how much can I be covered for? And if I come to make a claim and I've only earned this amount, does that mean that the claim is reduced? The good news is for people starting out is Aviva, which is the most reputable insurer in the UK. They have a policy that as long as you are working and let's say 1 hour a month is the qualifier, or you've earned at least £1 in a month, they will allow you to be insured for a living wage, which in their eyes is £1,500 net per month without any qualifying criteria of earnings.
That's so as long
as you're registered as self-employed or employed, you have to be registered as with an employer or self-employed. You can then qualify for the it's called Aviva living cost protection. So they think that the cost of living for the average person is £1,500 net in your bank account each month. You can take out that policy day one without having to back up your earnings when you make a claim. Now, I think it's great for people starting out, and I think it's great for people on a budget. It's not the most comprehensive cover because it doesn't come with all the bells and whistles that we spoke about before. However, it gives you an entry level into protecting your income and allows you to get onto that ladder, if you like, and get used to paying that and give you the protection that you need. So there is something out there for people who don't qualify necessarily. But to answer your original question, you don't need to be qualified in any industry to any level to be able to take out these policies.
That actually, brings about a question in my mind of, so for many of our members of the STA and people working in this kind of field of work, especially as starting out, or even just out of enjoyment. We might have other jobs or other careers. Like I'm a lecturer, and that's my full-time position. Ooh, we've lost Debs. Hopefully she'll come back in. For the listeners, Debs has disappeared from our meeting, but we're hoping that she'll join us shortly. So what might we expect? So in my role, I have an insurance cover. What might with Aviva, a life insurance or health insurance policy, what might I how might I approach a similar kind of income protection thing if I've got some salary work and some self-employed work? How would that work?
Yeah, so if you get employer's sick pay, let's say 100%, and then you then do a side job as well, you'd have to treat the income protection purely just on the self-employed side of things, and it would be 70% of the earnings on the self-employed side. If you then had no employer's sick pay and you earned X amount from employment and X amount from self-employment and you had no cover at all, we would pool all of that money together and would protect you as a whole based on your overall earnings. Because if you're self-employed, you'll have a tax return that you'll do, and it'll show salary from employment and earnings from self-employment, and then it'll pull all that money together based on your tax calculation, and that's a figure that we use for the protection. So what you can't do is you can't be overinsured, so you can't sort of cheat the system, if you like, and say, oh, well, I get 100% from work as employed, but I'll also indefinitely offer 12 months, but I'll set up an insurance policy and I'll get a payout as well as the sick pay. What will then happen is when you come to make a claim, the insurer will corroborate what you get with your employer. So if you work for the NHS, for example, everybody knows in insurance world and financial services, you get 6 month full and 6 month half pay with the NHS. I then, as the financial advisor, would say, oh, you don't qualify for income protection now for at least 12 months because you've got something with the NHS. You don't need anything, and why pay for it? Because you can't make a claim until the NHS stops paying you, basically. So
Right.
it comes down to me, really. I've got to dissect the incomes and work out what the best thing to do is, which again leads you back to what Debs was saying when she was going off online in a weird and wonderful world of, I'll just do, it's a bit like self-diagnosis, isn't it? If oh, I've got this wrong with me, I'll just go to Google and that'll tell me what's wrong with me, and all of a sudden I've got 4 forms of cancer and I'm on my deathbed. It's the same with this income protection. There's so many variables within the policies that actually you need the expert to pick it up and just say, right, you've gone down this path and it's cost you £100 a month. I can get it for £30-40 a month because you've overinsured yourself there, you've underinsured yourself there, you've done the wrong thing there, you've done that there, you've done that there. It all comes back to me as a person, and I'm the one that has to dissect every bit of salary or every bit of income that you get, and I can then work out which part we can insure against and which part we can't, or which part we need to and which part we actually don't need to.
Yeah, the last thing you want to be doing if you are on a tight budget or, trying to be as cost efficient as possible is overpay for, insurance when you don't, you've already got a policy in place that wouldn't enable you to claim anything anyway. Thank you, great. And then for the listeners, you can probably tell Debs is back in the room. We lost you for a moment,
Hi
Debs.
everyone, I apologise about that. Yep.
So I did have a question pop into my mind then about, we were talking about the different types of income protection from employers, but honestly I think I've lost the I've lost the question now. Debs, you've got a question there, I think, for Stephen.
So we're kind of coming towards the end of our little discussion today, and I just want to say that it's incredible the information that you've got in your head that you share with us. So thank you so much, and for bringing it up to us and making it live. So hopefully people that are listening to this, members and anybody on YouTube that wants to come into the STA, this is one of the massive benefits of being part of the STA. Along with many others, this alone is going to make you want to go, yeah, I want to be in it. But also, from a therapist point of view, you actually do have massages as well. So although you're covered for income, etc., you do look after yourself, and it's something that we as therapists are very interested in clients that are looking after themselves. And why do you look after yourself? So you have massages because of injury or benefits to do with life. Obviously, it's not something that's covered under income protection. Physio, yes, for sure, if you've had an injury. But so just run me through really about the massages that you have and why you have them and the benefits of those.
Yeah, of course. So I use an STA member, which is Alan Kay, who thankfully introduced me to the STA. He saw something in me like you did, Debs, and he introduced me to Gary, and that's where the sort of love affair started between myself and the STA. So Alan, I was always a little bit skeptical paying somebody money to be able to massage, and I didn't really believe in it years and years ago. And I was saying to Fiona before we came live, you've got to put your hands on the expert sometimes. And I've got every tool under the sun. So in the house, I've got a massage gun, I've got suction cups, I've got hemp oil, I've got deep heat. Honestly, the list just goes on and on and on. And I've got a problematic shoulder. To be honest with you, I don't really know what goes wrong with it, but in my sleep, sometimes I sleep really funny with my arm across me like that. And I wake up in the morning, I've got a really, really bad shoulder blade, spine, everything's in pain. And I'm thinking, oh yeah, I'll just put a bit of ice on it. I'll just, I'll get a massage on it. All this stuff inside the house. And all along, I'm thinking, well, surely this should be fixed by now. I go in and see Alan, and he has a prod and a poke, and he's like, well, and he starts touching areas which are nowhere near where I thought the pain was. The pain's up here, and he's in my mid back, and I'm thinking, yeah. Alan, the pain's up here, and he's like, yeah, I know it is, I know. And so he starts massaging into the back of my shoulder blade, yeah. And then I get up, and he's putting dry needles in and all this. And I think, wow, this is unbelievable. I get up. 2 days later, the pain just goes like that, and I'm thinking, how has he done that? And it's all because he's the expert, and he knows. I could have any tool in the house, I could have all the things that he has, but what I don't have is all the knowledge up here to be able to say, well, if that's wrong with you, it's because it's coming from somewhere else. That's and he is the expert, and he knows where to go. And it's not the first time he's done that. He did it with a muscle in my leg as well. I had a problem with the inner side of my ankle, and I was massaging my ankle, I was suction cupping my ankle, I was doing all sorts, and the front muscle, which runs alongside your shin, he started massaging the top of that. He said, it's rock hard. The other one's dead soft. The right hand side one was rock hard, and so he massaged it out for a good hour, and then all of a sudden I can flex like that without any pain. I thought, but the muscles up all the way up just below my knee, how does that impact the ankle? And he's like, well, it does, because, and explained it all. I thought, well, I would never ever have come to that conclusion. So when it comes to sports therapy, I'm probably the biggest advocate, and everybody that goes in to see Alan, and I guess any one of you guys that do this job, I know that they leave every time with money well spent, and it's a peace of mind knowing that whenever you are in pain anywhere, the first thing I do is ask to see whether Alan has a free slot, because you're paying somebody £40 to £50 an hour of their time, and it might seem expensive, but actually, would you pay £40 to get out of pain in an hour's time? Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Just like when you say when we go to the dentist, as soon as we make that phone call to the dentist because we're in pain, the pain subsides a little bit, because the expert's going to be looking at it, which is what Fiona alluded to. It's the same for when you go sports therapy as well. It has its overall health benefits as well. So I booked my girlfriend in not too long ago. She has many problems with her spine, has aching pains all the time, doesn't know where it comes from, suffers with ME. She lay on Alan's bed, and within an hour, he worked out that she had a rotation in her spine, and that it could be causing pressure elsewhere around the body, and then allowed her to go to the NHS with a more conclusive sort of diagnosis to say, well, actually, I've been to see a specialist, although he doesn't diagnose because he can't. He's actually mentioned that this could be a problem here, and what we've done there is shortcut so many hours of tests and investigations with the
Supporting.
NHS.
Yeah.
Absolutely, the support and evidence he provided was
Yeah.
invaluable. So I think for me, even if you have nothing wrong with you right now, and you take part in any sort of sports, especially things like CrossFit and MetaFit and all these things that use every muscle in the bone every time you work out, I think having a weekly or a bi-weekly or a monthly massage just to let the body recover has so many benefits. And it's, for me, I think if I could pay a membership each month or have it built into my insurance policy, if I could get one of the insurers to get behind it where they give you a free session every month, I think I could sell the policies for double the price, because it's just such a benefit. And as I say, I benefit from it every, at least once a month, where I think, I'm going to get the magic hands of Alan, and he's going to fix me. So
I want to go and see Alan now. It sounds
fantastic.
Fantastic, yeah. I think what you're talking about kind of rings true for some of this sort of taking accountability for yourself about the actual policies or income protection that we've talked about today. Things don't happen on their own. We're responsible for ourselves.
That's
and
right.
We can get this kind of help. We just have to ask for it. And sometimes those daunting experiences like Deb described, actually trying to focus and sit down and get this information. We're not the experts on income protection. We're not going to become the experts on income protection any more than our clients have become experts on, Achilles tendinopathies or slap lesions in the shoulder just from sitting in front of a computer. It's ridiculous that we think that we have enough time for it and the mental kind of resources. Debs and I were actually talking a little earlier about learning, and we have capacity for so much, and really just trying to make sure that we get the best resources available is probably the most that we can do, and put our trust in other people, other experts in other areas.
Yeah, and that's absolutely right. And thanks for sharing that, Stephen. It's really, really lovely and positive response to why you go and have a massage, because I think a lot of people think it is a luxury, and actually it's an investment a little bit alongside income protection. And how much did everything cost? A therapy gun, the deep heat, the eye, how much does all that cost? And actually it's not getting you anywhere. So I think you're right in saying, if this was a membership, something that I do, if this is a membership, then people are investing into a monthly price, and they can just get this maintenance. And like you say, like with income protection, as you get older, you kind of need more maintenance and more help to get things moving again. I know Fiona's clinic is called Moving Well, so I think that's a really good situation.
So true, Debs.
To kind of, so I just want to kind of say, really, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the WIST podcast, and thank you for coming, even though you're not female. Identify as male, and it's been just so eye-opening. I knew a lot already, but I've still learned more, and I'm sure there's expert information that I will never know that you know inside out. And why should I need to know when I know I can just pick up the phone?
Exactly.
You're very personable. You have a lovely way about you that's easy to talk with. I felt no problem in sharing very personal information, so that I make sure I get the right stuff for me that I needed to insure me. And I know that there are many members out there that would feel absolutely safe in your hands, like you do in Alan's.
Yeah, exactly. I think the other thing to sort of touch on, which we haven't, is the breathing space that I give clients between having the first conversation and picking back up again, to give them a chance to have a think about what we've discussed, because it is quite a technical subject in terms of there's a lot of variables and there's a lot to think about. And I think our first discussion against our second discussion was maybe 4 or 5 days apart. And that was a chance for you to reflect on what we discussed. And there was no, okay, Deb, this is what you have, and I'm going to sign you up today and we're just going to get it all done and dusted. And
not at all.
There's no pressure in it at all, because it is a big decision to make, and it is a decision that you shouldn't just take lightly, because there's a lot of options available and there's a lot of variables, and therefore sometimes you do need to discuss it with a loved one or discuss it with yourself, in effect, and really digest the information that's being given, because there's a lot of complexities in there. So I try and make it as non-complex as possible when we have our discussions. There is some technicalities in there which I think need digesting a bit more than just a 10-15 minute phone call, which is why I always give people a bit of breathing space to digest the information and really come back to me with any questions that they might have, because we might have overlooked something within the conversation, or we might have sort of missed something in the recommendation. So if anyone's sort of thinking about having a conversation with myself, always be rest assured that the decision is left with you. There is no pressure in it at all. I'm here to support the members of the STA, and I've got a real passion for doing it, purely because I know how much it helps businesses when they're starting up and when they're growing. So I'd love to be a part of everybody's journey if I can. And if you are fortunate enough to have an invisible body, then I guess I'll never need to speak to you, but none of us are blessed with that. So hopefully I get a lot of inquiries through from people who understand a little bit more now following this podcast.
That's fantastic. And how do we get hold of you, Steven? How do we do it?
Yeah, so if you go into the portal, I believe there is a link in the portal.
There is.
It should take you to a nice little landing page, which asks for simply name, telephone number, email address, and just a short summary about what you're looking to do with myself. That is normally limited to just income protection, because that's where we specialise in with STA members. Obviously, I do look at life insurance, critical illness cover, and also specialise in mortgages as well if anyone needs other financial support. But simply fill in the form, or if you check our Facebook page out, I know a couple of members in the past have messaged me through Facebook, and after you've spoken to me once, you'll have my mobile number forever then, and pester me as much as you want.
And how do we get hold of you on Facebook? Are you on Instagram as well?
The Instagram page, I don't think there is an Instagram page set up. It's not a platform that I tend to use really.
Okay.
But My Protection Advisor is a Facebook page which is there and is live.
Okay.
So you can log onto that page. I must update it, so I haven't done a lot on it for a while.
Okay.
And the website is www.myprotectionadvisor.uk, and the link is in the STA portal.
Perfect. That's great stuff. I'm going to hand over to Fiona. Is there any other questions that you want to go for with Steven?
I think that you asked every question that I was thinking. Where is the website? Where is Facebook page? Fantastic. So I guess if our listeners don't know about the STA and want to know more and find this magical portal that we keep talking about, you'll need to head to thesta.co.uk to find out more about the membership and what the STA actually can offer: sports therapy practitioners, sports massage, and associated kind of field of work. We do have a very active online community as well on Facebook too, so you might want to head over to the Sports Therapy Open discussion page, which has lots of information about things going on in our community. So yeah, I think that's all for today's episode. Thank you so much, Steven.
Thank you.
From Debs and I, and if you work in the sports therapy field and would like to be better equipped, to help yourself, this is the typical kind of thing that the STA can help you with. You can check out more information on the WIST podcast episodes, and they're available across many platforms, including Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And to get the latest episodes, you could subscribe if you really like what you've heard today, or you could head over to those pages, including the YouTube page, which you can watch the videos and check out our previous episodes. We've got actually quite a bundle of stuff in there now, and we're on series 2, quite excitingly. So you should have 6 episodes up till this point, including this one. We also have an email address, so if you need to reach us, wist@thesta.co.uk. We do have an Instagram account and also a Twitter account with the same handle, which is at UK_STA. Oh no, at UK_WIST. You could contact either of those to get through to either team. But I think that's that's pretty much all the information I can possibly impart with you as an audience. So I guess we'll just say thank you very much to Steven, and hopefully you'll catch us in the next episode.
Yeah.